We want to get into the local government elections because Karen has been saying it for as long as I can remember throughout the year. This is a dress rehearsal for the general that's going to come soon after. But we're also now hearing about signs from different stakeholders, different people, different sectors of society saying, yeah, this election, you know, it does feel that it's not just an election on record. It feels as though a lot of people are being more hyped about it. There's more energy about it. It's given more weight and importance. You know, because the result was always going to be somewhat important, but it feels as though this one has a bit more spice to it.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons shown would be, of course, the Privy Council decision. The fact that they went to the Privy Council and the Privy Council agreed that I like the quotation actually, which I included in an article I written straight from the Privy Councillors, saying it is not for Parliament, much less the government, to determine the length of service of the councillors. And so it was a really rebuke of the government, what I call overreach, because one has to remember that the government is effectively the legislature, passes the laws, and the executor, because they are the executive. So it was a clear criticism, very stark criticism of the government. So I think that attracted a lot of people's attention because we all wanted to know how it would have turned out, because as far as I can recall, when it was at the High Court, the judge at that point in time said, yes, it's a matter for judicial review, but it's not that important, so she's not going to put it high on the agenda. When it went to the Court of Appeal, the Court of Appeal attitude was a very sort of similar thing, except they said, and rightfully so, that it was not a constitutional matter because local government does not fall under the Constitution. So you had two local, our own judiciary, of course, looking as though, well, you know, they wouldn't be successful, and the Privy Council, by a majority of 3-5, but in a very harsh...
3-2.
3-2, sorry, which makes up 5. Sometimes he does have to correct me, mostly off camera, but this was one that I definitely needed the math. So the point was their condemnation was very, 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 very strict. So I think that has gained or garnered a lot of interest. That aside, what is really, why did that have to reach the Privy Council? Why was it an issue? And the issue was, why was the government, through the local government minister, trying in effect to extend the life of the local government, which was appointed in December, the councillors in December of 2019, to almost an entire year, which would obviously be on the eve of a national election. So, I mean, you have to think, what would be the rationale behind that? Why are you wanting to do something like that? What is your rationale? So obviously, if you're even half a thinking person, you are going to think that that's a political move, and the political move has to do with elections. Now, that is local government elections. But in local government elections, unlike party elections, which are internal elections, local government elections are the electorate. There was an excellent article in one of the newspapers that it really does explain the whole thing. But it says of the population, whoever qualifies, all of them can vote for the councillors. The alderman, how they come to the alderman is a little different, but it is based on the results of the electorate. And what happened in the last last election, we don't have first past the post in Trinidad. But in 2019, I was even a little surprised. I knew that UNC had gained an additional seat in one of the regional corporations. They had gained an additional seat, but I did not know that they had gotten 202,000 of the popular vote, 54-point-something% of the vote of the electorate, as opposed to the PNM at 43 or 44%. So if you're looking at those figures alone, if you are in government and if you are sitting down there, you have to be worried. You have to have a sense of worry. So to me, this election has become more hyped or more important, one, because of the attempt by the government, which didn't sit well with them, because it's not we decided, it's the Privy Council. They have no skin in the game, as they say, to really hammer back and to really criticize very harshly the three law lords in any event, or the attempt by the government to really abuse its executive, what they call executive overreach. That doesn't sit well with people. Number two, yes, you have seen some defection from the UNC to the PNM, but I think the big issue here, which we have spoken about, Sean and I have spoken about, Kamla. Sorry, I call you Kamla because everybody calls you Kamla, but I don't mean any disrespect by that at all. But Ms. Prasad, let me say that. I think we all know it's an open secret that there is a lot of dissatisfaction with her continued leadership. And this is going to be her testing ground. Now, this is the theory, which I'm not saying is true, but I mean, that's what theories are. I believe that the PNM, the current government, wanted to stretch out the date for the local government election as far as they could, because it would be almost on the heels of a national election. Now, if Prasad, within the internal strife that is clear, and I know it is there because I've spoken to many people who are senior persons of the party, and they all, even some will not say anything, but some will tell you that is the problem, and it is the problem. I mean, with all due respect, I mean, you got rid of Pandey, didn't you? Well, it's time for you to go. If you love your country, it can't be about you. This is what happens to people. It comes now about them. You have to understand the country is telling you, you lost so many times, so this is your test, this is your test. Because if in August, the UNC does not have not only win, but I expect a substantial win, there are about 20% of the population that are called the PIPs, people, party in power. And they understandably, because they know whoever forms the government is going to give them contracts. It's not just, there are financial considerations for the PIPs. So if she is not successful in August, it will give the UNC the time to put more pressure on her to step down and to put in place a person who, I won't call the name, but I think there's a person that most people would accept both on all sides of the equation and give them a chance to form a real threat to the current government. And I think that is the real issue at hand. The Privy Council matter sort of gave people an interest, but now with the August date, August the 14th, we know now that this is the testing ground for Kamla.
Because one of the last defectors, he basically cited that we've had election losses, a string of them. Even if ground was gained, there were still losses. And the thing is, look at Tobago. For better or worse, Tobago, the PNM Tobago Council got so unpopular that they almost got a clean sweep. It was just a few votes away from that last seat being flipped to the PDP at the time, and then it would have been a 15-0, right? They just hung on to that one seat by the skin of their teeth. Now, the thing is, we're not necessarily seeing that strong sentiment with a government that has had its issues, to say the least, particularly with big things like crime, with big things like the economy and diversification coming out of all we've been through in the last 3 years. And especially a lot of poor communication for a variety of issues. And we're not necessarily, you usually expect a sitting government to have a tough time getting re-elected. And we're not seeing the country saying, well, no, let's give the other party a chance. So we're not seeing that same level of support for the opposition that you saw in Tobago.
Right, and the main reason, in my respectful opinion, based on anecdotal, I can't say when I did a survey, is because of the leadership, which many people within the UNC want her to step down. So that's really what is at risk here, and that's why I think this election is important for the national election. And I could tell you, if the UNC, by the way, in 2019, she was really not popular at all. So it was quite amazing that she gained a seat, right?
Yes, yes.
All right? And the PNM wasn't doing a hot job then. And a lot of people are staying quiet because they're afraid to talk out, understandably. So let's just see what happens August the 14th, and then we will see. But it's an important yardstick to measure how to view the national elections and how people are going to, the floating voters, the PIP, not all of them are PIP, but persons who, for whatever reason, don't commit to either party. Let's see what happens after August the 14th.
What might confuse things or muddy the waters is all the other participants as well. Maybe.
But you know what? She came to an alliance. It was not a
Yeah.
coalition, an alliance with Gary Griffith. He's only going to go after, I think, 10 seats. He's not going after all the seats. So it's both her and Gary Griffith. So automatically you understand those who are supporters of Gary know that if the UNC is successful, that you can expect the Gary Griffith to be part of that arrangement.
All
you can
I'll say
expect.
is
I'm not saying it will happen.
We've seen Gary work with the UNC before.
It's a different arrangement, though.
Maybe.